What's happening, guys? I got another very special bike here from the Jeff Castine All Sport Cycle Collection. Jeff just turned 60 years old and decided he wanted to sell his shop, put his house up for sale, and we bought most of the bikes in his collection, and God willing, he's coming aboard to work with us here. We're really excited about that. In the meantime, let's focus on this bike. This was his pride and joy. This was Jeff's bike that he built as himself for himself in 2018 as a daily rider. He did a full frame-up restoration. I have all the information on what he did. I've got the title and the actual value of the work that was done between what he did and we did here was $5,956. You might as well round up to $6 grand, a full frame off. And you'd ask yourself, why would he do that on this bike? Why would he put $6 grand into a bike that's going to be worth less than that when he's done? I'll tell you why. Labor of love. Just like my YZ450 race bike I put 25 grand into. He wanted to build a bike that he could take out on the track, take out on the street, and he wanted it to be perfect. So he mechanically took it apart and redid the whole thing. And I asked him today when I called him, I said, Jeff, why did you redo this with only 14,000 miles? He goes, well, most vertical twin air-cooled bikes at around 14,000 should have the rings done and the cylinders honed so they don't smoke or burn oil. So he wanted it perfect, so he did it full frame off. Let me get into the history of these bikes quickly before I take it for a ride and give you a riding demonstration, so hang in there. These were made in Japan by Suzuki as a 400 over there because they had a cc limit of 400 cc's for this particular class. And in the US, we didn't have those restrictions, so this is basically the Japanese GS400 on steroids, the 450. It has a bigger bore and a shorter stroke, and I have those specs written down. Did a little research online. It's actually a 71 millimeter bore versus a 67 in Japan, and the stroke is actually a 56 versus a 60. So it's a high revving, very powerful 6-speed engine. So little history on the bike. They made 3 different models. They made the E, and they made this one. This is an E. They made an S. The only difference between the E and the S is this fairing. And if you come around this side, you'll see it says Suzuki GS. This is an OEM actual Suzuki GS fairing. Jeff said he paid $280 for the fairing. It came to him painted silver. So we had Nick paint it silver. Burgundy here to match the original color. So we painted that. Nick painted that in-house here. So that's a very difficult item to find, the S model fairing, and it gives you that European cafe style look. So the bike's rated for 38 horsepower. The top speed is about 100 miles per hour. It's a 448 cc. It weighs 386 pounds, and it's rated for 55 miles per gallon. Very, very fuel efficient. The engines are notorious for being extremely durable. This bike's been around for 40 years, and it's proven itself to be extremely durable. It has a one-piece crank with automotive plain style bearings, not the roller bearings they used on the smaller ones. And they were notorious for being excellent racing bikes. They handle like a dream. It has a twin down tube steel frame, as you can see right here. Long travel telescopic forks, needle bearings on the swing arm on the rear here, and long travel adjustable for preload shocks. You can see they're nice heavy duty shocks. So I talked to Bill Blythe. He said in Loudon, New Hampshire, these bikes dominated the race scene up there in the middleweight class from 76 to 81 until Kawasaki came out with the EX500. So this particular style, they made an L, which had a smaller tank and buckhorn bars. This was absolutely the best of the 3 models they made. And to this day, you go online and punch in Suzuki GS450 Bobber, Cafe, or Street Racer. Ironically, they took those 3 styles of bikes and took it to the next level with today's modern bike builders. This one was built to be 100% original.
Historically speaking, value-wise at the auctions, the bikes that came from the factory with less of the UJM look, I'm talking about the bikes with the round tanks, the King Queen saddles, and maybe even the chrome fenders, or like a touring fairing. It's a bike like this with the cafe styling, the square edges on the tank, and the flat seat profile, and the bikini fairing. These are the bikes that bring all the money. I'm talking about the Z1s. I'm talking about the GS1000 S's, exactly, and everything else in that category. These are the bikes that are bringing the money, and this is a bike that I would anticipate to appreciate at a faster rate than the UJM plain Jane styled examples.
So this kick-ass vertical twin 4-stroke double overhead cam twin Mikuni carbureted engine. Also has an electronic ignition. It has electric start, and they're basically bulletproof. It has a 3-phase alternator. The steering lock is integrated into the ignition key, so you can lock the steering so it doesn't get stolen. And it has a 4.5-gallon gas tank, and they're known to get upwards of 60 miles per hour, so you can go 250 miles on a tank comfortably. The bars are in a super comfortable position. The fairing takes the wind off your chest. It's got a wide, long seat so you can move around. Has plenty of room for a passenger, plenty of torque for a passenger. And the seating position has a rearward orientation of the pegs. The pegs are a little farther back than on the L model, and the bars are the European Superbike style sport bars, the original European bars that came from the factory. So it gives it a cafe or a street racer look. This one is 100% original paint, except for on the fairing, which was painted to match. It has the original exhaust on it. And you might be asking, well, how the hell did they put $6 grand into this thing? Well, let me go over the work order on it. This thing was taken right down to the frame. He completely dismantled it. The forks were taken off. The engine was taken off. The tanks, tins, everything. Stripped it down to the frame. He sandblasted and painted the frame that Jeff did at his shop, and just reassembled it one piece at a time. I asked him how many hours. He said it took him a full week of 8+ hour days, so 40 hours. I can tell you most mere mortals, you can plan on a winter of weekends and at least triple that. Jeff's one of the best, if not the best mechanic I know of on the East Coast for Japanese bikes.
Yeah, typically working on something that's 40+ years old, nothing is ever cut and dry. So if you're not a professional mechanic who specializes in vintage work, you would not have been able to do it as quickly or efficiently as Jeff did with his.
Starting at the front of the bike, during the reassembly process, the wheel bearings were serviced and axle and bearings grease. Has a brand new front tire on there with a 2018 date code. The fork lowers were polished and buffed. The fork rubbers, wipers were replaced as new fork seals. The forks are completely rebuilt with seals, oil, and the wipers. And the original chrome on the forks is absolutely perfect. You can see it does not need, and it was obviously, he did this because it was in really nice shape to start with. As far as to increase the performance, he went with a heavier duty fork oil, 20-weight fork oil, and he also took a close look at the braided stainless front brake line. So the front brake is on point, really improves the braking capability, because the stock hoses were known to flex. The caliper and the master cylinder were rebuilt with all new fluid flushed. The steering head bearings were reassembled with new grease and torqued to the proper spec. The rear of the bike, the tire was already 95% tread, so he left that tire on there. Put a brand new gold chain on it. The rear brakes were serviced, cleaned, and reassembled. These are the original aluminum mag wheels from the factory. The rear shocks are in mint original condition. And he basically went through, detailed, cleaned, painted the frame, painted the whatever needed to be done on the kickstand and center stand. The engine cases were clean, polished. You can see, look at close up the finish of the cylinders. He took the top end apart and bead blasted the cylinder, so it has like a nice finish. It looks brand new. The carbs were rebuilt. The jets were micro drilled and cleaned in his carb cleaning tank. There's a brand new battery in it. The gas tank was flushed. The entire fuel system, carburetors, tank, fuel lines, petcock, everything was cleaned, rebuilt, or replaced. The pistons were cleaned and new rings were put on there. The cylinder was honed. He put new top end gaskets on it, base gasket, head gasket, valve cover gaskets, piston rings, new valve seals, ground the valve seats, and completely rebuilt the top end. So total of 40 hours labor at $90 an hour is $3,600 plus $530 in parts. So it adds up pretty quick. Then it came to us, and it went through our detail shop. We spent 9.5 hours on it. That includes painting the front fairing, touching up various components on the bike. We repainted the center stand and the kickstand and gave it a hand wash and polish. The frame rails were touched up. The motor was touched up. All aluminum was polished, including the covers on the motor. It looked real shiny. So 9.5 hours in the detail shop, 2.5 hours in our service shop. Jeff had put a new, I gotta check my notes here, a new regulator. I don't want to speak out of school here. I have like 5 pages of notes. I want to see if I can find this on here. Okay, a new regulator rectifier was installed, a new battery, and of course we're running VP non-ethanol fuel in there with a brand new crankcase full of 1040 oil. So needs absolutely nothing, and that's about it. Brand new battery, the whole 9 yards. So
I think there's enough flex under the gun.
Yeah, if I haven't lost you already, you know, you might have to put some riding stuff in with earlier in the video, or we're going to lose everybody. So sorry for being so detailed, but I had to tell you guys exactly what was done, because you just don't see these middleweight bikes getting this kind of love and attention. And it was done because Jeff raced these back in the 70s and early 80s. And he's 60 years old. He loves these bikes. He knows how good they are, and he wanted one for himself, so that's what he built. This was a labor of love, okay? He didn't build it to make money. He could have done 40 hours worth of work and raked in $3,600 of client service plus parts and you know, shop supplies. He could have made $4 grand, but he built this for himself. Then we took it to the next level, painted the fairing, detailed it, went right through it again. So. Just a beautiful piece. There is a bit of patina on the paint here, a little touch up right here. You can see the original decal faded a little bit. It's not perfect, but it's original paint on almost, well, 41-year-old motorcycle. So definitely a classic that's stood the test of time. Has the original Suzuki Tanaka mirrors made in Japan on here. Original bars, original levers, original grips. Just been babied its whole life and then massaged to perfection by the best in the business. So if you have any questions about the bike, give us a call, 860-454-7024. I challenge you to find a nicer, more well sorted out GS450 in original condition like this. They're just not out there. People just do not invest this kind of time and money into these bikes, period. So it took me a while to tell you what he did. Imagine, you know, it took me 30 minutes to talk about what he did. It took him well over a week to finish it. So that's about it. I'm going to take it for a road trip. If you have any questions,
stay tuned.
So we're going to demonstrate all the electrical functions work perfectly on the bike as you'd expect. And it starts up and runs beautifully with no choke, even with the motor cold. It was ridden about 10 minutes ago, or 20 minutes ago before we started the video. Fires right up. It purrs like a kitten. You're going to do the audio with that and do a drive-by? Yeah, the same thing as the last one. Do a walk around of it idling. Idles at a perfect 1,000 RPM. All the idiot lights work beautifully. Turn signals, brake lights, everything. I'll do a drive-by, all right? Has a gear position indicator on it also. Ready? Japanese reliability.
like to drive for the highway. Well, it's it's a new master cylinder and the S model fairing on this thing, which is something you just can't get. You still find these fairings, people don't sell them. I can't stop on the S, and if you find one, you have to pay $300 for it, and I'm going to have to can it to match your bike, so it's a super nice option. Made by Suzuki, of course. CR250, the CBR600, and now the GS450 that Jeff Casteen built in massage for profession. What a kick-ass machine. I really can't wait till Jeff comes aboard with us here, man. It's really gonna rocket us into another dimension. We've been outsourcing a lot of stuff to him, but to have him here would be, look at the shine on this thing. You know, from 10 feet, it looks brand new, like it just came out of the crate. There's some patina on it. It's, you know, had a little touch-up paint right here. I love the orange and decals on it. What do you think, Junior?
I think a lot about the bike goes without saying. In the category of buying something as an investment, as a Sunday rider, as a showpiece, and something you can enjoy without breaking your back and having a wrench on it every day of the week.
Bulletproof.
GS450.
VP fuel, so you don't have to worry about the carbs getting gummed up. You can leave that fuel in there for, I've had a friend had it in 14 years.
Yeah.
VP fuel, fired right up.
Yeah.
Look at the, it's never been dropped. No scars on the turn signals. No scars on the pegs. No scars on the engine.
Guys, we can ship the bike to you while you're in quarantine, from our door to yours. We'll sanitize the paperwork, slip it under the door for you.
Love the gold chain.
Anywhere in the States, message your zip code.
Look at the shine on the side cover and the shine on the tank and the shine on the aluminum. Man, I'm blessed to get to enjoy these kind of super high quality bikes. You can see he even bead blasted the engine cases. See that? The engine cases and the top end were all bead blasted by Jeff. Jeff's the man. He put a lot of TLC into this, so good luck bidding on it. God bless America and God bless Japan for these kick-ass classics.